This is set sometime in the first decade of the 2000s, but seems so far away in our current digital jungle. As you were developing the story, what struck you about remembering a time not so long ago, but so much simpler?
Yeah, yes, it was not that long ago, but it certainly looks long ago in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So the older sister, Dylan, played by Zoe Colletti, she is 19 in 2006 when this takes place, and I was 19 in 2006. So for me, it's like I immediately get the connection to all of the 2000s stuff, and it was so fun to get like work with the art team and to kind of go back in the past. I like tell the story all the time, but I brought out you remember the iMac, like the Macs with the big colored, that everybody wanted. I brought one of those out to put into the scene, and the actresses asked me if it was an air conditioner. And I was like, oh wow, this was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So that part of it was really fun. It was really fun to get a couple. My actresses were both 22, Gen Zers, and it was like so fun to make a Gen Zer like have like Avril Lavigne eyeliner on, and she just thought it was so weird, and I literally couldn't see it. I was like, I can't see it. You look completely normal to me. Like I've been ruined. I'm like all early 2000s.
Right.
So yeah, so that part of it, that kind of like reaching slightly into the past part was good, but also challenging because it's a little hard to see, because we all feel like it's kind of normal. But yeah, so
Right.
it was a fun challenge.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What struck me in watching the film was the delicate tenderness you gave the sisters' dilemma, while at the same time how distant a 15-year-old is from an 18-year-old. In writing this story, what did you want to emphasize about the gulf in those years and how the different personalities define it?
Yeah, so I'm not the writer. So the writer,
Oh,
Sydney Blackburn and Michael Waller wrote it, but we all kind of
okay.
collaborated along with the actors
Sure.
on kind of what made it in there. But I think one of the things that felt most important, well, the most important thing, right, is like the relationship that they have with each other, and like that needed to feel so authentic that we almost couldn't figure out if it was real or not. Like it needed to feel so real,
Mhm.
and I think walking that line, teenagers, if you study a teenager, which it's the worst, they're the worst. But if you study a teenager, they're constantly walking this line where they're oscillating between like absolute despair and just elation. Like, and
Yeah.
there's no in between. It's one or the other. It's like,
Yeah.
and I think that was kind of, for me, that's one of the most fascinating, hilarious things about teenagers. And so I felt like that was an important thing to show. So it was fun when one of them would dive into despair, and then the other one would try to pull her out, and then the other one push her towards this, and it just became this really kind of fun back and forth about two teenagers, coming from their own perspectives. And the
Sure.
age difference is really fun too, because I do feel like, yeah, 15, you still are feeling that deep awkwardness. 18, maybe you've dated a little, or maybe you just
Right.
feel like you're out on your own.
Right.
But they both have their own absolutely intense struggles of teenhood. So yeah, it was fun to
Well,
show.
that's what I was so, struck by that, only 3 years, but like miles away from each other.
Yeah, yeah,
The chemistry between Autumn and Zoe, Dylan and Sam was crucial to the
mhm.
authenticity of the characters. What preparation did you have to do between the actors to one, get them to a more relaxed point emotionally, and two, live in a different era? And
Yeah.
did both of them have sister relationships in real life?
So the funniest part about this, and we get asked that question a lot, and the funniest part is that none of us have sisters. So I don't have any sisters. Autumn has only I have two brothers. Autumn has brothers. Zoe
Sure.
has brother. Like we do not have that. But in some ways it's what made it like first of all, that kind of like connection as far as like with a sibling is really universal. And I think women have a lot of sisterly relationships with each other. So it's
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
crazy to imagine
Right.
that what that would be like.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, as far as preparation goes, they met for the first time the night before we started shooting, is when they met in person.
Wow.
We did a few Zooms here and there to kind of
Right.
get them kind of comfortable with each other. Mostly it was just me saying like, here, I'm bringing you guys on a Zoom. I'm going to give you some dumb assignment, and then I'm going to bounce off and you guys can just be together. Like one of them was come up with a jingle that you guys both heard a lot growing up. Like come up with a brand new jingle that you guys both heard growing up that sometimes you sing to each other as Dylan and Sam. And so it was like little things like that. And ended up filming that, and it was hilarious. And like, the little things like that where they kind of got comfortable. And as far as like nurturing that on set, you know, I started as an actor, so I'm like very conscious of how a set feels because I've been on so many bad ones, really good ones too.
Yeah, yeah.
But when I say bad, I mean more that like, to me, nothing is a bigger enemy to creativity than if you cannot feel vulnerable. You know, you need vulnerability to be creative, and in order to feel vulnerable, you need to feel safe. And so I wanted to make sure that the set always felt like someplace they could experiment, that we were staying on task, but that I trusted them to use the time wisely. And you know, and I think that freedom and that bit of security was really good as far as like letting them connect with each other in a really authentic way. And they're also like the best actors ever, so that was pretty easy.
Yeah, I'm astounded. But again, the Zoom helps. And you
Yes.
think about that was not available, you know, 10 years ago or whatever.
No.
And now you can do prep over that, and I'm sure it helped a lot. Okay.
It makes a difference. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Every little thing.
The applying of the makeup scene was remarkable in its transition symbolism. What is the relationship of emerging adolescence in your observation and makeup for women that you wanted to emphasize in that scene?
You know, I think in a lot of ways, makeup is it holds so much to women. It's the same as like their hair, and there's so much that holds as a tool of connection. Um, you know, I think it goes much, much deeper than changing how they look or adding to how they look. It's about gathering around something and communicating through it. It's like, you know, I feel like some of the closest memories I have of being with my girlfriends and feeling really close with them is when we're all sitting on the floor before going out in college, and there's a big mirror and we're all doing our makeup and talking, and it's like a barbershop vibe. Like it's the kind of thing that it gives you a conduit to connect to each other. And I think that like probably these sisters, now that they're getting older and they feel all this tension with each other, they probably never touch each other or get this close anymore or really look at each other. And I think that's what the makeup does, that it becomes this tool, this buffer, so that they can connect through something else that makes them maybe relax a little bit more.
Very nicely done. You obviously thought about it.
Yeah.
The issues of connection and love and teenage courtship is a major theme. What seemed so cringe in your memory that it had to be in the story or the writer?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, there's so many cringe things.
Yes.
For me, I think the thing for me was, you know, at the birth, that time was so specific. It was at the birth of AOL Instant Messenger, that kind of like, and how it felt to all of a sudden connect with people, maybe in a way that you aren't comfortable doing in person. And also getting to kind of create the person you wanted to be. And like, that was the first time we really understood that we could do that. I mean, other than pen pals, you know, this was like, and the access was way too wide. I mean, chat rooms have since become, and were at the time, becoming creepy. You know, there was a lot of danger, you know, involved in that. But yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like when it comes to that type of, you know, that type of cringy time, like, I honestly, the worst feeling in the world I remembered as a teenager was when I was caught in a lie. And when you got caught in a lie, when you lied for convenience, or you told, you know, and all of us did it, and we're still good people, but kids do it because they're trying to figure out how to like exist in the world and survive. And that feeling of, you have done something wrong and you must apologize and you must own it, and it's your responsibility. And that is such a crucial part of growing up. And it's so uncomfortable. And so I just wanted those little moments to be as uncomfortable as I remember them being. that growing up, you know.
So you used downstate Illinois as a character in the road trip. What is most Midwestern about the sister characters, and where does that regional aspect most emerge in the story, do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm from Chicago, so for me, I'm just like Midwestern, you know, through and through, and you can't help but put some of yourself in things. But yeah, I mean, the Midwestern of it all, I have this feeling when I think of the Midwest that it's it's almost like an insulated place,
I
it's
agree.
wide and vast, and it's kind of homogeneous in certain ways. And so there's a safety that you feel, especially these two, like living in the suburbs and having that be, there's kind of like this, um, they're living in this kind of like little bubble, this like Midwestern bubble,
Yeah.
that I think popping that bubble it makes it more fun, when all of a sudden you realize like there are stakes and things can be dangerous and you can mess up and all of that. I mean, I think it's like showing that one of the reasons why they could take a chance like this is because they had that kind of Midwestern upbringing where it was just,
Sure.
where they,
Yeah.
sometimes it's like you can only take, like, I noticed that my friends who had the most secure childhoods are the most comfortable taking risks in some ways because they have like developed this like
Bubble.
strong rooted core,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that playing with the suburban part of it is really fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
Besides Autumn and Zoe, your casting choices were interestingly precise in the supporting players.
Yeah.
What were you looking for in the parents that you found in Keith and Beth? And what were you looking for in the boyfriend that was at the end of the journey?
So yeah, the casting was so fun because I mean, it's all over the place about doing hybrid casting now, which I love and hope to do at some point. But
Right.
shout out to P&R Casting in Chicago. We've used them for everything. I've known them since I was an actor. Amazing. They always do such a good job at like, especially when we communicate to them, like, I just want something that feels very real. I want people who look real. I
Right.
want, it always bothers me when you're like watching a film about, um, the Middle Ages and everyone has veneers, and you're like,
Or just white teeth in general.
there's like super white teeth and like a little bit of filler and like, so yeah, I love people who look like people. Like that's the thing that is the most important to me visually. And then when it came to the parents, yeah, I mean, what you want, I mean, when it comes to anything, it's like all you want is authenticity. All you
Right.
want is to look at a character having a conversation and know that there was something that came before that and there's something that's going to happen after. And like my favorite thing in the world is to like jump into a story right in the middle and you're like, whoa, what happened leading up to this?
Right.
But in
Right.
some ways you can feel it when you see the
Right.
parents interact.
Right.
There's like a little bit of undercutting, a little bit of passive aggression,
Sure.
and you can feel that how it started and what it came from. You can also see why they work as a team and why they don't work as a team. And, so for me, it's more like having that kind of veritas in a way that it's just like, I love working with just like intelligent, good people. And you find an awful lot of those in Chicago. So
Cool.
that's where they come from.
In essence, you're doing a period piece, but the first decade's 2000s world can be recreated without too much strain. What did you most have to watch out for in a set when shooting that era? And do you think a road trip can be accomplished like this today in similar circumstances?
I'm not sure. I
I
mean,
don't think so.
I don't. I mean, there are kids today won't understand what it was like to follow MapQuest directions. Like they will never know what it's like to not be able to be like,
Right.
oh, I took a wrong turn. Click, send me back to the like.
Right.
That was a completely everything felt a little bit more intense at that time because you didn't have that.
Right.
You know. But yeah, I mean, for me, what was most important is, I was less concerned with, oh no, we're doing a driving scene and a car comes across the way that was done that's a 2020 car. Like that concerned me less. If people are pointing that kind of thing out, I'm like, okay, I'm not doing my job. Like for me, the most
Right.
important,
Right.
it was like, in an indie film, you only have a certain amount of of money, you only have a certain amount of access, you only have a certain amount of time. And so
Right.
you have to like be really, like, as a director, this is the advice I give to a lot of directors, you have to be really smart about where you put that money and where you put that time. It has to be strategic. And so for us it was like
Very
Sam's
good.
bedroom needs to be accurate. Like we need to have jelly pens and all the kind of things that I had in my bedroom, the posters and all that stuff. Like that has to be accurate. And also the costumes had to be accurate. The hair
Yeah.
had to be accurate,
Yeah.
and like the
Yeah.
makeup and all of that. Like that was the stuff, it's like everything else is. Would I love to be like Fincher and make sure that every pencil in every drawer is of time? Of course. But, for those of us who don't have that budget or that time,
Right.
you would hope that the focus is on what you're telling the audience to focus on.
Right.
And it's like the trick of directing. Like you got to show them where to focus, and the other things are less important. So you hope that they give you a little grace with the rest of it. Yeah.
Final question is since there's a bit of autobiography in both the screenwriter and yourself, what element about yourself do you remember most in Sam and most in Dylan?
I'll start Dylan. I remember that feeling of like your first boyfriend and what it felt like to feel like everything was when you're in a that kind of intense relationship in the beginning, all of a sudden when that ends, you feel like you're floating in space. Like somehow you've realized I've been doing this thing the whole time and I defined myself through this person and now they're gone.
Right.
What do I like? Who am I?
Right.
What is that? And so that was like an important scene for me when she was like, I don't know what I like, and so that's such a huge adulthood thing. And it does, you get it over and over again throughout the years, going through divorce or going through anything. It's like you have that feeling over and over. So that's really the first time you feel that is like, who am I?
Right.
As far as Sam, you can see that Autumn Best is an actress with a disability. She has a hand difference.
Right.
And growing up, I connected with that so much because growing up, I had really, really severe scoliosis. So before my surgery, I had what I called my middle school era hunchback, like a legit hunchback. And it is exactly how you would assume a hunchback in middle school went. It was exactly that. So I remember that feeling of, I really thought of myself like I was this physical manifestation of what awkwardness felt like, and so it was like wearing that awkwardness for everyone to see. I couldn't blend in. I couldn't, and so when we cast Autumn, originally in the script, there was no mention of disability, but we cast Autumn because she's the most incredible actress ever. And she happens to be an actress who has a limb difference. And so we were like, actually, we have to address it in the film, obviously.
Sure.
But we brought it to her and said, I wrote this whole letter and I was like, I really respond to this. And this feels like it could be a really beautiful way to like lean into the themes of this film. And I would love to explore that if you're open to exploring it. And she was, of course, gracious and amazing. And we were able to work together. And she kind of went through the script and advised us on how she remembers growing up with this difference. And so her and I were able to connect a lot over that. It's one of those things too, where it's always like, when you have a thing like that, it can be hard for people who don't have it or aren't around it to understand joking about it. Like my brother would tease me about having a hunchback and then I'd yell something back at him. And it was like loving, like it was all part of that. But, it was important because on set, if you like, I would have Dylan make a joke about Sam's hand, and it would make people real uncomfortable. And we all had to say, and Autumn, of course, had to say, listen, this is how I talk to my brothers. Like it's part of you, who you are. And so you're able to joke with these, and that's what to me rings the most authentic as a person who kind of comes from that background. So that part was really I am a perfect amalgam of both of these girls.
This is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2026.